I must have walked into the wrong room. Michaela, that's the best you could have come up with? We have another How to Get Away with Murder video on our hands. In this one, we're going to discuss episode 4 of the final season. It'll be a minor review with some prediction of where I think the show will be going with endless spoilers. But before we get started, thank you for watching. Last review, I asked you guys to give me all your best predictions and theories for where you think the show's going to be going and what's going to happen. So at the very end of this video, I'm going to include the top 3 that I found most interesting and or great. So stick around for that. In the meantime, comment below with your thoughts about this episode. I'll be doing a new video for every episode of this final season of How to Get Away with Murder, so hit subscribe if you want to see more videos like this one. As usual, we'll go character by character, but I just want to mention that this episode did a great job at reeling us back in after the frenetic episode we had last week. Let's start with Gabriel, because so does this episode. Well, the episode starts with everyone, but we'll break that down eventually. Anyway, Gabriel's still listening to those tapes, trying to grasp at anything he can to identify with his father, and I gotta say, I do love the parallels between Michaela and Gabriel's situation right now. Correct me if I'm wrong, Vivian left, right? And Gabriel stayed, defending Annalise to the end. Here's the thing with Gabe. Can I call him Gabe? I'm gonna call him Gabe. Here's the thing, nah, I don't like it. Here's the thing with Gabriel. He's a ticking time bomb. We already know that he's capable of murder and he's murdered someone in the past, and I think he's ramping up to find out the truth behind Sam's murder. No, he's already discovered that Annalise lied, once again, surprise, surprise, about Sam, claiming that Sam came on to her. Well, no, it's been revealed that it was her that made the first move. I think this reveal is a small step towards Gabriel finding out about everyone's involvement in Sam's murder, and quite possibly becoming the informant. Quite possibly becoming the informant may be how I end a lot of these character breakdowns, actually. Speaking of possible informants, let's hop on over to Nate Leahy. Now, this is incredibly embarrassing to admit, especially because I just rewatched the entire series all over again, but I totally forgot that Annalise framed Nate for Sam's murder. Like, what the hell, man? Why are you still defending this woman? Anyway, Nate is low-key working for himself, working for the FBI, and working for Annalise. And then he's still trying to get Tegan thrown into the mix, but the FBI is just so hell-bent on taking Annalise down for Sam's murder. Like, they almost seem like they're ignoring the fact that Governor Burkhead could be involved in Miller's and Nate Sr.'s murder. Like, that's huge. You hear someone say, the governor may be responsible for murder? You're an FBI agent. You look into that. Which makes me think Burkhead and the Castillos are behind the entire investigation, possibly even paying the FBI agents so they can take Annalise down once and for all. They're even dangling Nate becoming an FBI agent in front of them. Man, I hate dangling. Which, again, embarrassing to admit, I forgot his entire reputation was tarnished because of Annalise. Good Lord, he has every reason to be working with the FBI to take this woman down. But here's the thing, he's not going to do it because that means the Keating crew will be affected. It means Bonnie will be affected. It means Frank. He doesn't really care about Frank, but it means Nate will be affected. He definitely was an accomplice in season 2 with Sinclair, and this may possibly trace Miller's murder back to him and Bonnie, so I don't see any logical reason why he would become the informant. Speaking of people who probably aren't the informant, let's talk about Bonnie. Sneaky, sleuthing Bonnie who can't keep her nosy ass out of people's business. She has her first day at C&G, and what does she do? Steal Tegan's divorce papers so she can give it to Nate and he can give it to the FBI so they can review her financial records. I did find it interesting that she's invested in stocks that are owned by Laurel Castillo, which I'm still sticking to my Tegan and Laurel working together theory. This may have hinted at that, but I'll get into a little bit more when I talk about Tegan. This is Bonnie time. I also did like how she confronted Nate about working with the FBI, and I'm interested to see what this does to their current dynamic. Anyway, they didn't really reveal much about how Bonnie could possibly turn on Annalise. Everything Bonnie does, good or bad, is for Annalise. Even when Bonnie finds out that Miller was actually innocent and Annalise lied about it, it's not gonna give her cause or reason enough to want her dead or arrested. If anything, Bonnie would give her life for Annalise, or she would confess for the entire crime if she could. And now we'll talk about Tegan. Side note, their case was actually pretty interesting in this episode too. And look at them, I had my doubts on how they could work in online dating into the season, and they did. And it didn't feel forced. Rock on, murder writers. That's why we love ya. Like I mentioned before, Tegan has invested in a company that's owned by Laurel Castillo, and then everyone just kind of assumes it's Jorge, but I think it adds more evidence to support the fact that Tegan's probably working with Laurel. Now, I have to give credit to one of my subscribers, but I forgot that Tegan helped Laurel find daycare for Christopher when she needed it last season. Tegan really didn't have any close ties with Laurel at the time, Or unless Tegan was just being kind, which this episode really supports the fact that Tegan's career is at the forefront of her mind. But I think that means that Tegan's relationship with the Castillos is much more connected than she claims. She even brings up the Laura Castillo stocks and says she doesn't like how she got them. Now I know this could mean a load of different things, but I'm thinking it ties into when Laura was kidnapped the first time. But there is a story there, and I'm hoping that's going to unfold. And there's also just so much we don't know about her ex-wife. Anyway, could she be the informant? I'm still sticking with no. I still think that Tegan is trying to help in some sort of twisted way. Plus, Connor wouldn't have reacted the way that he did if it was a picture of Tegan. And that leads us to Connor. There wasn't a lot of crazy development here. He was kind of pushed to the shadows for Michaela's story to really develop. I did recently read an article though that says his reasoning for being chosen for the Keating 5 will be revealed in episode 6. So I'm really looking forward to that. And yeah, that's it. Not really much else, but the threesome? Like, what was that even for? Now look, I don't mind a sex scene, and I don't mind a gay sex scene, and I don't mind a threesome sex scene, but that was so completely out of left field. I got up to get water, and I didn't even pause the show, and that is saying something for me. All right, I know everything has to mean something in this show, so I'm going to analyze it anyway. My only thought, and hear me out, is that threesome guy is the informant. If you were Connor and you looked down at the dead informant picture and you realized it was the guy that you invited to your house to have a threesome with, wouldn't you first laugh, then cry, then have a panic attack because you knew that it was partially your fault? I don't know, he could have been planted by the FBI. Maybe he comes back for another threesome and he overhears something about the murders. So that's it. I'm going on record saying threesome guy is the informant. Mic drop. Also, Oliver was way out of character in this episode, and I didn't like it. It was just really odd. Like, they could possibly be foreshadowing that he's the informant, maybe? Like, all of a sudden, he's not going into work. He's getting high, and then he's wanting threesomes. Maybe he's working through some internal guilt. And like I said, that reaction that Connor gave could quite possibly be a reaction to seeing Oliver. I also think the next episode is probably going to give us a reason for Asher to want Annalise dead, or at least for him to be the informant. With the arrival of his sister, I know some things are going to be revealed and we're going to have to question her motives, or maybe even his motives. One of my subscribers, Dea, actually reminded me that Asher still doesn't know the full extent of Annalise's involvement with his father's suicide. Asher can be a hothead, St. Clair, and sometimes acts without thinking, blurting out that Annalise knew Michaela's birth father. After finding out the truth, he could decide to turn her in, or get so full of rage and kill her if Annalise is the informant and dies, which she isn't and doesn't. Why? Because homegirl was sending money to an overseas foreign account in the opening scene. My girl, cover yo ass. So this makes me think she's planning something, which she always is, but a fake death, perhaps? Sadly, if that were the case, I don't think the murder writers would be throwing it on her face so soon. I think she may be trying to leave, but isn't able to. Or maybe it's just like a baby Christopher fun in case the FBI gets her. Who knows? Anyway, I've heard a lot of you say you want her back, and I think this episode pretty much confirms it. Eve is coming back. All the sessions we overheard Gabriel listening to were about Eve. Annalise revisits her bisexuality in this episode, and she starts questioning whether or not someone can love her. It's Eve. She gotta be coming back. Plus, Noah teased a lot of our favorites are gonna be back this season as guest appearances. I'm just really excited. As always, Viola Davis just had a lot of great scenes and some really great dialogue this episode. And it was kind of nice to see Annalise just like going on dates and enjoying life and just living. She still doesn't know that Michaela knows the truth about her birth father, and with that said, let's move on to our prime suspect. Michaela. She's off seeing her supposed biological father, who happens to be rich, an investor, a public speaker, oh, and a feminist. I gotta say, I see where Michaela gets her drive and passion to achieve her dreams here, so Michaela tries to steal DNA to find proof, and I side with Gabriel on this one. She should have just asked, but I wasn't raised in a terrible home environment after my mother was shot by a man I thought was my father, only to find out that my father was actually the man that represented the man that I thought was my father in court, and this was the first time I was meeting him. So yeah, we each do things in our own way. Anyway, Michaela sneaks into his room, gets busted, and turns out he knows of her. By name. So they end up meeting, and before anything is actually said, the episode ends. Now, I don't know exactly where this is going to go, but I think this is the opportunity for them to close up this storyline. Especially if we're moving over to find out why Connor was chosen for the Keating 5 in episode 6. I think this is a perfect opportunity to tie up all those loose ends and give Michaela some closure. Because when she gets back, Frank is probably going to be fighting for his life. Turns out Xavier and his crew beat the shit out of him, and the promo for next episode doesn't make it look so good. Now, I don't think this is when Frank dies. I understand marketing and how TV promos work. They want viewers, but I do think this is going to be a cause for retaliation against the Castillos. Hell, we haven't even seen Governor Burkhead yet. Like, what's she been up to? Probably paying the FBI to investigate Annalise? Again, seeing how far Xavier's willing to go will probably spark some fear and motivation that they need to do something about the situation now. Oh, and I'll mention a flash forward real quick. Not much was revealed, but it did further support the fact that my theory is wrong. With the way that Michaela reacted to Connor's reaction, I don't think this is a plan. Someone's dead, and it's bad. Alright, that's it. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you made it to the end. Before I get into my closer, these are a few of my favorite theories from you guys in the comment section of my last video. So I'll summarize it, but it's gonna be on the screen. Samantha Sam says that Annalise does indeed die. She is the informant, but she's doing it to protect all the kids. Essentially, she feels responsible for them, and that's why she chose them for the Keating 5. I just thought it was a really interesting theory. And Dr. Dylan Roberts says that all the answers lie in the beginning, and Hannah Keating is behind everything. And I don't think we're looking into Hannah Keating enough. And the last theory is from Aswin. Michaela has had Pratt dollars made and has been carrying them everywhere in her pocket since season 1. I fully support that. She would do some stuff like that. So thank you, and thank you so much for your support. Comment below with anything that I missed and some of your new theories. I do love me some good predictions. If you want to see any more of my How to Get Away with Murder videos, click one here. And don't forget to hit that thumbs up, it really helps me out, and hit subscribe with a side notification bell. Until next time, shine on, you crazy diamonds.